Good evening and welcome to the second day of the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. We are once again coming to you live from outside the Endler Hall. The sun has been out today for what feels like the first time in weeks, drenching everything in winter warmth and giving us a chance to catch our breath after last night's outstanding faculty concert, which had the audience on their feet on several occasions. In case you missed that program of Bach, Mendelssohn, Van Dyck and Pere Pasquero, you can revisit it on the SICMF website or on YouTube. And in fact, we'll be sprinkling this live stream with a few clips just to whet your appetite for tonight's second faculty concert that starts at 8 p.m. In fact, let's jump into that right away to give you a sense of what we mean by chamber music magic here at the SICMF. Here is the encore from last night, the last bit of Cur Trăiască, a traditional Romanian wedding song showcasing the virtuosity and versatility of our musicians. You can understand why that piece was doing the rounds on social media earlier today. The Cur Trăiască, an arrangement of a traditional Romanian wedding song, concluding last night's first faculty concert, which opened this year's SICMF, and they're led by our distinguished faculty artists. And as someone commented on our YouTube channel, proof that the double bass can also be a percussion instrument. It's been another full day here on the second day of the SICMF with a guest ensemble concert at 1 p.m. featuring the Federatie van Afrikaanse Kultuurverenigingen, or the FRK Youth Symphony Orchestra, playing works by Sibelius, Bach, Grieg and Vaughan Williams. And then at 3 p.m, viola faculty artist Jennifer Stum hosted a masterclass. At 5 p.m, we had another guest ensemble concert with the Lineage Percussion Group visiting from the USA. And we've just emerged from one of our intimate interviews in conversation between Julien Benichou and Rebecca Tong. And incidentally, Rebecca will be my guest during the interval tonight. And so to give you a sense of what else is going on in the conservatorium this evening, let's cross now to our man on the ground, Pierre, and hear which unsuspecting victim he's found for us tonight.
I know that you was expecting ice. Tonight I'm not behind the camera so long.
Excellent. I'm glad that you also get your moment in the sun.
Sometimes you have to wear more than one hat. So as you can see, because people are starting to make their way back to the hall for the show for tonight. And this guy is actually part of the festival. He's helping our director reading the music. What's your name? What's your role at the festival? And do you look forward to it every year?
Yeah, I really look forward to it. So it's always fun.
It looks like you're on your way somewhere, so I don't want to keep you.
Always busy at this festival. Always.
We'll see you later. I've got another guy here, John. Do you want to speak to another guy here? This is Brent. I've been knowing Brent for a very long time from the festival and the university. Brent, how's it going?
It's going really well. It's been super busy. The first couple of days are always a bit chaotic, but we'll get into a good rhythm.
I know, John, you said that you want to speak to Brent at some time, but Brent, what's your role at this festival?
So I'm the logistics manager at the festival, so yeah, taking care of everything at the festival related to the participants and accommodation and meals and schedules, you name it. I try to take care of it all.
I can see you've got your phone always ready. It sounds like we are ready to go to the hall. John, I'm going to cut back to you. I'll speak to you during the interval again.
Super, Pierre. Thanks so much. I hope we can rope Jacobus and Brent into my hot seat here at some point. They're both such critical figures in this SICMF, and we're very grateful for all that they give to the festival year after year, whether that's organizing or performing. We're very lucky the SICMF family is so rich, and it's wonderful that they keep coming like our faculty members year after year. So the second faculty concert is beginning in just a few minutes at 8 p.m. and there are only two works on the program tonight, both by English composers, Charles Villiers Stanford, perhaps better known for his choral music, and Vaughan Williams. The concert opens tonight with Stanford's Nonet, his Serenade, Opus 95, and although he was born in Dublin in Ireland, Stanford's musical career is more closely associated with the United Kingdom. He was a prolific composer, writing 7 symphonies and 10 operas. Do we ever hear them? But perhaps his most lasting legacy in the musical world was as a teacher of composition. In 1882, at the tender age of 29, he became one of the founding professors of the Royal College of Music in London. And his pupils included Vaughan Williams, John Ireland, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, or rather Samuel Coleridge Taylor. Let's not get poet and composer confused, and Gustav Holst, to each of whom he left a legacy of relative stylistic conservatism with a devotion to strong formal principles. The Nonet that we'll hear tonight is one such work and is typical of the composer's Brahmsian approach to formal craftsmanship, melodic richness, and a mastery of counterpoint. And so to set the scene for tonight's concert, here is another highlight from last night's opening faculty concert, the aria from the Goldberg Variations by J.S. Bach in an arrangement for string trio featuring Andrea Baranov, violin, Jennifer Sturm, viola, and David Cohen, cello. We're here inside the Endler Hall for the second faculty concert of this year's SICMF. As you can see, the iPad, the first violinist's iPad has been delivered. That's these days quite an important protocol with which to start off our concerts. As I mentioned to you a little bit earlier, there are two works on the program tonight. The first by Charles Villiers Stanford. We really are much more familiar with his choral music, even though he was very prolific writing symphonies, writing operas. We very seldom get to hear those performed, and so I think it's quite a treat to hear the Serenade in F major of his, subtitled Nonet, because there are 9 instruments, opus 95 tonight. It's in 4 movements, and we're going to be hearing Demarre McGil, flute, Yao Huang Zhai, clarinet, Joshua Elmore, bassoon, and Jeffrey Pilkington, horn, along with the strings of Frederica Saiz and Suzanne Martens, violins, Carolina Herrera, viola, Peter Martens, cello, and Knut Erik Sundqvist, bass. And so that sets the scene for tonight's concert, because in the second half then we have music by Vaughan Williams, who was a pupil of Stanford's. As I mentioned to you a little bit earlier, outside the hall, Stanford's greatest legacy probably was in the realm of composition, because he had these great pupils, John Ireland, Samuel Coleridge Taylor, not to be confused with the poet, and Gustav Holst, who went on to fly the flag so high for English music. And so there really is an English theme tonight, high English music, music coming into its own just before or around the time of Elgar, who we do recognize probably as the greatest English composer since Purcell. His cello concerto, his pomp and circumstance marches, his enigma variations, these great works that have made Elgar more of a household name than Vaughan Williams, and certainly Stanford. So it's appropriate tonight. We get to hear then in sort of chronological order Stanford Serenade, and then in the second half tonight the Vaughan Williams piano quintet in C minor. And there's quite an interesting backstory around that quintet. He was very dissatisfied with the work. But that piece was last performed at this SICMF in 2013. And so it's wonderful that these works we don't get to hear very frequently, at least the SICMF, when we hear them once, there is the chance of hearing them again. They're not sort of consigned to the archives forever. As always, very sensitive programming by the artistic director, Nina Schumann. As we spoke about last night, this balance between the old and the new, starting last night's concert with Bach and then Mendelssohn, really the sort of foundation of music as we know it today, and then venturing into more recent compositions, 20th, 21st century compositions, Peter Louis van Dijk, the Romanian folk song that we heard, the Turcească, a little bit earlier tonight in the highlight from last night that we shared with you. And so after setting that scene, as I mentioned a bit earlier, this English affair tonight, which will certainly be the main theme, Stanford and then Vaughan Williams holding those two pieces together. A reminder, if you're just joining us now and just in time because the hall lights are dimming here in the Endler Hall, this is the second faculty concert starting at 8 p.m. or just after 8 p.m. South African time, coming to you live from Stellenbosch in South Africa as part of the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival 2023. And here come our musicians onto the stage, faculty artists, ready to play for us Stanford Serenade in F major, also known as his Nonet, opus 95, and you can hear their very appreciative applause from the students, the audience, here with us tonight in the Endler Hall. ovation here in the Engler Hall, capping off the first half of the second faculty concert, music there by Charles Demarre Stanford, the Serenade in F major, also known as the Nonet, Opus 95. And there really is something about that combination of strings and wind instruments that creates the feeling of a serenade, that dreamy, nice music. One thinks about other compositions of that title by Mozart, by Dvorak. Great appreciation, the audience on their feet once again for faculty artists Demarre McGil, flute, Yao Huang Shai, clarinet, Joshua Elmore bassoon and Jeffrey Pilkington horn, and then Frederica Saiz and Suzanne Martens violins, Carolina Herrera viola, and Peter Martens and Knut Erik Sundquist cello and bass respectively. History does seem to have judged that work and Stanford's instrumental music rather harshly. It is a pity that we don't get to hear his chamber music, his symphonies, his operas. At least we have his choral music, but hopefully hearing Stanford's chamber music at the SICMF will encourage these musicians here and others to give his music a little more of an outing. Well, it's time for the break. I'm going to dash outside. Don't go too far away because in a minute or two I'll be back for a chat with faculty conductor Rebecca Tong. Welcome back, and here we are outside the Endler Hall. As you know, we have interviews with very special people in the intervals of these faculty concerts, and tonight I'm joined by Rebecca Tong, and she's one of our faculty artists, one of our conductors here at the SICMF this year. Just a few words of introduction. Rebecca is an Indonesian of Chinese descent who grew up in a musical family. She's got the music in her genes, and her musical experiences and involvement stem from a very young age. She's continually fascinated by connecting communities through music, and that's something I'd like to chat about a little bit later. Recent and upcoming highlights include debuts with the Philharmonia Orchestra, the London Philharmonic Orchestra, the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra, the DSO Berlin, the National Orchestra of France, and the BBC Philharmonic. Rebecca is resident conductor of the Jakarta Symphonia Orchestra and artistic director and music director of Ensemble Contemporaire. She has won a host of prizes and has worked as assistant to conductors including Michael Tilson Thomas and Francois Xavier Roth, and recently participated in masterclasses and mentorships with Marin Alsop, amongst others. And I had to mention Marin's name because she came to South Africa at the end of last year. She's involved with our national orchestra here, and I believe is back in August. So it's great that we have especially women conductors visiting our shores. So thank you for making some time for us. Rebecca, you mentioned this is your second time in South Africa, but first time in Stellenbosch.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And how were they able to entice you to the SICMF? Did they have to send you a very big check? Lots of money or?
No, actually the relationship started because Nina Schumann was the pianist for the orchestra, the Johannesburg Phil, that I conducted last year. And then Nina mentioned that she really liked working with me, and vice versa, of course. And then she invited me to the International Chamber Music Festival, and I immediately said yes, because I think it's a wonderful idea to have this festival.
And the rest is history, as they say.
Yes, of course.
And here you are now.
Yes.
Glad we didn't have any other pandemics in between. So just to pick up a little bit on that, one might think it's a bit unusual to have a conductor at a chamber music festival, because as we've just seen, most chamber music is unconducted. What is your role then in this festival as a conductor? We have the orchestral concerts a little bit later. Why are those important for the students as part of this immersion while they're here at the festival?
Definitely, because as part of a musician, sometimes you get maybe like private lessons with the teacher, and then you get like chamber music. But then this incorporation of this private coachings and then performing chamber music and be part of the orchestra makes a musician a whole. And my role this week, this whole 10 days with the festival, is to rehearse the orchestra and then programming really great programs, of course, and then really encourage them to be really positive about the music.
That holistic development of musicians is so important,
Yes.
and I agree. That's also a very special thing of this festival, is to have the one-on-one, the small group, and then the very large ensembles like the orchestra as well. Is there anything in particular you're looking forward to, repertoire-wise? We've got some Rachmaninoff, some Tchaikovsky towards the end of the week.
I enjoyed all of them because, for example, the Rachmaninoff symphonic dances is not something you often see, especially with such a young orchestra, because even with professional orchestra, it's rarely performed. So it's an opportunity for them to really get deep in this symphonic dances by Rachmaninoff, and it's a gem. It really is a gem.
And it's a big year for Rachmaninoff, isn't
Yes,
it?
exactly.
We're hearing his music all over the world,
Yes.
150 years since his birth.
Exactly. And then everybody loves Tchaikovsky violin concertos, and we're going to be performing also Mozart Marriage of Figaro Overture. And the second program is quite different in the first half. We'll do Weber Clarinet Concerto No. 2 and Rafael Alborada del Grazioso. Also the other gem that like people don't normally do, and we're going to do it all of that great program this week.
Excellent. So lots to look forward to. Book your tickets for Friday and
Yes.
Sunday if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
Perhaps with your teaching hat on, when you're working here with the students in the orchestral rehearsals, do you have a particular philosophy? How do you strike a balance between, on the one hand, encouraging them, but on the other hand, you probably also have to sort of put your foot down at times and be quite assertive as a conductor?
You know, that's very interesting because like this morning I was telling them that we have our first day of rehearsal today. And I said, I'm not doing anything different than conducting the LSO and conducting you.
Fantastic.
Because
So that immediately makes them feel
Right.
like they're professional almost.
because these young students need to also remember that all the faculties, including myself as a conductor, we all started the same way they started. And by putting them as a professional, immediately giving them that belief and the encouragement that they need. Yeah.
And I was very tickled to hear in your conversation a little bit earlier in the hall across there, acknowledging that they are the instrumentalists, they're the ones making the music.
Yes.
Of course, you're playing a critical role,
Yeah.
making sure the right sounds, players come in, happen at the right time. But at the end of the day, the ball is in their court
Right.
as the musicians to really produce those beautiful sounds. And,
Yes.
and you've just got to kind of be the conduit and nurture that out of them.
Exactly. Yep.
How's the rest of your year looking professionally? Are you jetting off straight after the festival to other exciting things?
I will be doing Mahler 5 with this Campo de Joa in Brazil next month. So I'm really looking forward to that, and also with youth orchestra. My debut with Orchestra National de France will be in November, and I'm doing, hopefully. So, and there's a lot of other interesting projects throughout the year, and you'll never know where your path takes you. And I'm always keen to meet new people, new colleagues, and even meeting old friends. So.
Oh, that's brilliant to hear. I mean, on that note, any specific other advice that you'd like to share with the students, any musicians who might be watching this?
Oh, definitely. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. That's number one, because everybody is on a different path. And don't compare yourself to others, because you have your own progress, and we're only going to get depressed or like unsatisfied when we're always comparing ourselves to others. But if you see your own progress from last year or even last month or even yesterday, and you know you're progressing towards something better, something more positive, just keep doing it and don't worry about anything else.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. That's so
Thank
good
you.
to hear, especially in this age of social media,
Yes.
where we can be almost obsessed with comparing ourselves to
Yes.
others. So to end on a lighter note, some quick fire questions if you don't
Yeah, of
mind.
course, of
as
course.
quickly as you can.
Yeah.
Mozart or Mendelssohn?
Mozart,
Bach or Brahms?
Brahms,
Beer or wine?
beer,
Symphony or string quartet?
symphony,
First half or second half?
second half.
I'm very impressed. No doubt you were able to just give those answers. Rebecca Tong, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, John.
Very excited to hear how the coming days pan out in rehearsal, and then look forward to seeing you on stage before you know it, the week is at an end almost.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure, really.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break to peer once again a foyer interview, see what is going on elsewhere here in the Conservatorium.
How's it, John? Yeah, as you can see that people are getting their wine and coffee and waters before the next second half. But I saw something quite interesting. If you look over here, these are classical players that also support rugby. Did you know that, John? Where are you from?
I'm from the Bloemfontein Free State.
You are from Bloemfontein, so
Yes.
you support the Cheetahs.
Right. Yes, I do.
Okay, and what do you do here?
I play violin for the concert orchestra.
Is it your first time at the festival?
It's actually my second time.
Second time, so it must be good.
It is such a
And
fun festival.
so, what's your favorite part of the festival, and what are you looking forward to?
My favorite part of the festival is the chamber groups, and I'm really looking forward to performing with my chamber group.
Okay, well that's a good answer. Your name, and say hi to your mom.
My name is Kitso Mureng, and hi, Mama.
Thanks, John. This is the foyer. We're getting ready for the second half. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Pierre. As Rebecca mentioned, this festival is all about cultivating holistic, well-rounded musicians. So it's very good that we have those supporting rugby as well as music. So just to tell you a little bit about the next work in the program before we head back inside, It's the piano quintet in C minor by Vaughan Williams. He was Stanford's most famous student, and he continues this theme of English music tonight at the SICMF Second Faculty Concert. He was one of the most important composers of the 20th century, Vaughan Williams. He inherited his teachers, that's Stanford's reverence for the large-scale formal architecture of Brahms. And while Vaughan Williams shared an intense interest in choral and church music with Stanford, he was also passionately interested in English folk music. And like several other important 20th century composers, like Bela Bartok, like Gustav Holst, Vaughan Williams sought to incorporate the rhythmic and harmonic features of folk music into a new theoretical conception of art music. And so the work we're going to hear tonight, this piano quintet in C minor, was last played at the festival 10 years ago, and it was a work that Vaughan Williams battled to complete. I'll tell you more about that in a moment from inside the Endler, but first, a final highlight from last night's first faculty concert, and we feel that this is important to share with you again, the Saraband for Strings by Peter Louis van Dijk, who celebrated his 70th birthday this year and features his son in this recording and faculty artist Zandi van Dijk as soloist. And welcome back to the Endler Hall. That was the interval. I hope you enjoyed my chat with Rebecca Tong. Some really lovely advice and insights there, especially for younger musicians, and very important and inspiring that we have, in particular, a woman conductor in a profession that is so men-dominated, being here with us as part of the SICMF. We have Maren Alsop visiting South Africa in August. She was here last year too. We have a composer being featured on Monday evening. So lots to celebrate women in music here at the SICMF 2023. Well, we started off tonight with music by Charles Villiers Stanford, and now it's Vaughan Williams. In the second half, you heard me giving a brief introduction outside there to this piano quintet in C minor of his that we're going to hear. Let me tell you a little bit more about the work. As I mentioned, one that Vaughan Williams battled to complete. He wrote an initial version in 1903, and in the 2 years before its debut, he continued to revise it and rework it. And many of these revisions were due to discussions with his close friend and fellow person who was interested in folklore, Gustav Holst. But Vaughan Williams continued to remain unhappy with this quintet, and he withdrew the work from performance in 1918. His dissatisfaction with the work was such that it was subject to an embargo after his death. He did use several ideas from this quintet in his 1954 violin sonata, but eventually his wife Ursula allowed this and several other early works to be performed in public, and then a 1999 revival performance of the quintet was fittingly held at the Royal College of Music in London, where Vaughan Williams was associated for so long. The work we hear tonight uses the same quintet instrumentation as Schubert's famous Trout Quintet. We get to hear Schubert tomorrow night. Schubert, like Mendelssohn and Mozart, being really important cornerstones of the chamber music repertoire. And there we have, in a fantastic red dress, Nina Schumann, artistic director of the festival, coming on stage. She's the pianist, and she's playing with Nicolas Dartricourt, violin, Sandy van Dijk viola, David Cohen cello, and Knut Erik Sundquist bass. In this performance, Vaughan Williams' piano quintet in C minor that comprises 3 movements, here in the second faculty concert of the SICMF 2023. I've most been looking forward to hearing at this year's SICMF because I heard a rehearsal a couple of days ago, and ever since I heard that passionate opening, I've been so interested to hear how the work would evolve and eventually conclude. Not quite the way I was expecting, but very typical Vaughan Williams, especially that modalism. He was so influenced by folk music, and while we didn't hear any original folk tunes in that piece, certainly the way he used the harmonic language, the modalism of the folk music, very apparent. I hope you'll agree. So I'm very glad that work got to see the light of day in 1999, even if Vaughan Williams was never happy with that final product himself. Very unusual instrumentation, like the Trout Quintet by Schubert there, Nicolas Daltricot, violin, Zandi van Dijk, viola, David Cohen, cello, Knut Erik Sundqvist, bass, and Nina Schumann, piano in that performance. And of course, some credit to the page turner as well. Well, a marvelous program of English music from the early 20th century by Stanford and Vaughan Williams, comprising and concluding our second faculty concert here at the 2023 SICMF. The Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival continues tomorrow on its third day, Sunday. You can catch a guest ensemble concert at 1 p.m. featuring the Elias Quartet from Switzerland with music by Ravel and Mendelssohn amongst others, and then a bassoon masterclass hosted by Joshua Elmore. The penultimate guest ensemble concert in this program is at 5 p.m. It features the much-loved local group, the Coastal Brass Collective, and at 7 p.m. Zandi van Dijk will be in conversation with Jennifer Stum. The third faculty concert, that's 8 p.m. tomorrow night, features music by Carl Maria von Weber and Schubert, the quintet in B-flat major and the string quintet in C major, respectively, both cornerstones of the chamber repertoire. Thank you for joining us tonight at the SICMF 2023, and please drop us a line on our social media channels to let us know what tonight's highlight was for you. More information about the festival, concerts and musicians is available on our website, that's sicmf.co.za. Tomorrow is a Sunday with more fine weather predicted, so we hope to see you here in person in Stellenbosch, but if not, we'll be back just before 8 p.m. again tomorrow evening, live from the Endler Hall. Once again, thank you to everyone from the production team who makes this live stream happen. And until tomorrow, this is John Woodland, wishing you good night from the SICMF.